All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to explore the fascinating story of Nirma, the brand that kind of turned India's detergent market upside down.
Yeah.
You know,
hmm
picture this. It's the 1960s in India, and just doing laundry, like basic laundry, was a whole different story back then.
Oh, yeah, it was a completely different world. I mean, detergents were considered a luxury item, really something only the well-off could even think about. The big name at the time, Surf, they were charging a whopping €15 per kilogram, which, back then that was a significant chunk of a family's budget.
Yeah, I can imagine. No wonder most people, especially those in rural areas, had to rely on those old traditional methods like using soap nets or even ash to wash their clothes.
Exactly. It wasn't really a practical option for everyone.
So how did this all change? What happened?
Well, this is where our main character, I guess you could say, steps in. Karsanbhai Patel. He was a chemist by trade, but even more importantly, he was a real visionary. Patel saw this massive gap in the market, millions of people who needed a simple, affordable way to clean their clothes, and that's where the whole Nirma story begins.
Okay, so let's break this down a little.
Yeah.
What was so unique about Nirma? Did Patel, discover some revolutionary new cleaning formula or something?
Not exactly, no. His genius was more about what you might call frugal innovation. He wasn't aiming for some, super high-tech, super expensive solution. He was all about keeping it simple and affordable.
Right, so he wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, just make it more accessible.
Yeah, pretty much. He developed a phosphate-free synthetic detergent, and he made sure to use locally sourced ingredients, which helped keep the cost down. And it also made it gentler on clothes.
So a win-win for consumers. They got an effective detergent that didn't break the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Affordable and effective, you can't really beat that combination.
But, I mean, was that really enough to take on a giant like Surf, which was already so well established?
It took more than just a good product, that's for sure. Patel was he was a brilliant strategist. I mean, he really understood the power of pricing.
Oh, I bet. So what did he do? Offer some crazy discounts?
You could say that. When Nirma launched, they launched at 3.50 per kilogram. I mean, think about that. That was almost 75% cheaper than Surf. It was a total game changer. Suddenly, washing clothes with a decent detergent was something almost everyone could afford.
Wow. That's quite a bold move to undercut the competition by that much.
It was, but Patel was thinking long term. He knew that by selling at a lower price, he could make up for it with volume, with higher sales, sell to millions, and still make a profit.
Right. It's the classic high-volume, low-margin approach. But it sounds like it was more than just about making money for him. It was about, giving people access to something that could actually improve their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It was about empowering people, making sure that everyone had access to basic necessities.
But how did they get the product into the hands of all these people, especially in rural areas where, distribution networks weren't as developed?
That's another really fascinating part of the Nirma story, the whole distribution strategy. Instead of going through those traditional wholesalers, the big guys, they went straight to the heart of local communities.
So they were like cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. They partnered with those small independent retailers, the Kirana stores.
Ah, yeah, those are like everywhere in India, right? Even in tiny villages, you'll find a Kirana store.
Yeah, exactly. They're like the backbone of retail in India, especially in rural areas. And Nirma knew that. They knew those were the places people were actually shopping.
Smart move. I mean, it seems pretty obvious in hindsight, but I'm guessing no one else was doing that at the time.
Not really, no. Nirma was really breaking new ground with this approach, and it worked. By the 1980s, they had over 2 million outlets across India. I mean, think about the logistics of that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so they've got this amazing product, they've nailed the pricing, and they figured out this brilliant distribution strategy. But how do they actually convince people to switch from the brands they're used to try this new Nirma detergent?
Well, distribution was key, but there's more to it. Nirma's marketing was pretty ingenious, too, I'd say. They really had their finger on the pulse of their target audience. I mean, they didn't just throw a ton of money at those fancy TV commercials like everyone else. Instead, they focused on, well, what we'd call hyper-local marketing.
Hyper-local marketing. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Okay.
Tell me more about that. What did that even look like?
Well, think about it. In rural India back then, not everyone even had a TV, but almost everybody had a radio. So Nirma, they created these catchy jingles, played them on the radio day and night, and they just, seeped into everyone's minds.
Ah, the power of a good jingle. I bet you can still remember some of those jingles.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of our listeners can too. It's amazing how those things stick with you. But it wasn't just radio, Nirma used all sorts of things to reach people directly. They did wall paintings, posters, they even had those street side promotions going on. It was all about taking the brand directly to the people wherever they were.
It sounds like a total marketing takeover,
Yeah.
but very strategic, very targeted. And of course, we can't forget that logo, the little girl in the white dress. I mean, it's so simple, but so iconic. I bet everyone in India knows that logo.
You're absolutely right. That logo was a huge part of building that whole Nirma brand identity. It was aspirational, it represented that desire for a cleaner, better life. But at the same time, it was relatable, very down to earth. It connected with those middle-class families who wanted good quality without paying a premium price.
So basically, they hit all the right notes. They had the right product at the right price, got it to the right people, and told the right story. Sounds like an unbeatable formula. So did all of this spell doom for the competition? What happened to the big guys like Surf?
Well, let's just say the established players definitely took notice, and they weren't too happy about it. By 1985, Nirma had managed to capture a whopping 60% of the market share.
60%. Wow. Okay, so that's not just competition, that's domination.
Yeah, it was a massive shift in the market. And Surf, their market share had plummeted to, get this, a mere 7%.
Ouch. So what did those big companies do? Did they just give up?
No, not at all. Hindustan Unilever, the company behind Surf, they weren't going down without a fight. They realized that they had to adapt. They had to cater to this new group of consumers who were much more price conscious.
Yeah, it makes sense. They couldn't ignore such a huge segment of the market.
Exactly. So what did they do? They came out with their own low-cost detergent called Wheel. It was designed specifically to compete head-on with Nirma.
Ah, so the battle lines were drawn. I bet things got pretty intense between them.
Oh, they definitely did. A full-blown price war erupted. It was a constant back and forth, each brand trying to undercut the other to grab more market share. It was pretty cutthroat, actually. But, Nirma, ever the strategic thinker, they had another trick up their sleeve. They realized that putting all their eggs in one basket, even if that basket was, super successful, was a risky move in the long run.
Right. It makes sense to diversify. So did they try to make their detergent even cheaper?
No, they went in a different direction. They started to diversify their product line. They started making soaps, toothpaste, even premium detergents. They wanted to cater to, a wider range of consumers with different needs and budgets.
So it wasn't enough to be the detergent king anymore.
They wanted to build a whole consumer goods empire. And it was a smart move. It meant they weren't just relying on one product for their success. It gave them some breathing room, some stability, in case the detergent market took a downturn. It was all about that long-term thinking and adaptability.
That's really impressive. So where does Nirma stand today? Are they still the undisputed kings of the detergent world?
Well, things have changed quite a bit since those early days. I mean, the Indian market has evolved a lot. Nirma's still a household name, for sure. But their market share, it's not what it used to be. It's declined, especially in those big urban areas.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as India's economy has grown, people have more disposable income, they have more choices, and they're more willing to spend a little extra for those premium brands or those, specialized detergents.
Absolutely. But Nirma, they're not a company to be underestimated. I mean, they've evolved too. They're not just a detergent company anymore. They're a huge conglomerate now worth billions of dollars. They're involved in all sorts of things, cement, chemicals. They're even in healthcare.
Wow, that's quite a journey. From a single detergent to a multi-billion-dollar empire. So before we wrap up, what are the big takeaways from Nirma's story? What can anyone learn from their success?
There's so much to learn from them. First off, they really show the power of recognizing an unmet need and then figuring out a way to fill it. I mean, Patel, he saw that millions of people needed affordable, good quality detergent, and he delivered. It's that simple, yet so many businesses miss that basic principle.
It's like find a need, fill a need, right?
Yeah.
But it takes more than just a good idea.
Yeah.
What else did Nirma do so well?
They were masters at understanding their target market. I mean, they knew exactly who their customer was, what they needed, what they could afford, and they didn't try to be everything to everyone. They really focused on serving that core market, and they did it incredibly well.
So laser focus on the customer.
Got it.
What else stands out?
Their marketing was spot on too. They didn't just follow the playbook, you
Hmm.
know. They tailored their approach to their audience. Catchy jingles, wall paintings, that relatable logo, it all just clicked with people, built that trust and loyalty. And of course, let's not forget about that pricing strategy. They proved that you can be profitable and accessible at the same time. It's not an either or situation. But if I had to pick one thing that was most impactful, I'd say it was their decision to diversify. I mean, that's what really allowed them to stay ahead of the curve, to adapt to the changing market, and grow into the powerhouse they are today. They didn't just sit back and relax once they had success with the detergent. They kept pushing forward, looking for new opportunities, and that's what kept them relevant.
Yeah, it's really incredible to think about how this company started with this one, seemingly simple idea to make clean clothes affordable,
Mm.
and then they built this massive, like, empire from that. But I think what's even more interesting is what their story tells us about, like, innovation and entrepreneurship, the bigger picture.
Oh, totally. Nirma's story is like the perfect example of how you don't need a ton of resources or some fancy background to really make a difference. You know, what you really need is to understand a problem, come up with a solution, and then just have the guts to really see it through.
Yeah, yeah. It makes you wonder, what are the Nirma-like opportunities out there right now, just waiting to be discovered? What are the things that people need that no one's providing yet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught up in our daily routines and not even notice the things that could be better, you know, those problems that are just sitting there waiting for someone to solve them.
Totally. So where do we even start? How do we find those, like, those hidden opportunities?
Well, I think it starts with being curious. You got to pay attention to the world around you. What are the things that frustrate you? What do you wish existed but doesn't? It could be something, you know, as basic as a better way to organize your kitchen or a more efficient way to get to work.
Right. I mean, we get so used to things being a certain way that we don't even question if there's a better way to do it.
Exactly. It's all about having that curious mindset, you know, and being willing to challenge those assumptions we all have. Don't be afraid to ask, like, why is this done this way? Or what if we tried this instead?
Hmm.
That's where real innovation comes from, that willingness to question and explore.
So to everyone listening, our challenge to you is this. What will be your Nirma moment? What problem are you going to solve? The possibilities are pretty much endless.
That's the beauty of it. There are so many needs out there just waiting for someone to come along with the vision and the drive to do something about it. Nirma's story shows us that even a simple idea, if it's done well and with passion, can have a huge impact.
What a great way to wrap things up. So to all our listeners, keep your eyes open, stay curious, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next Karsanbhai Patel, building your own legacy. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for exploring the amazing story of Nirma with us.